Welcome back to another video. In our previous video, we have covered how to restrict the URL and also read the username from our in-memory detail manager. So now in this video, we are going to read the user detail from our database. The first thing we are going to do is we are going to create our bean. Public user detail manager. User detail manager, and then pass our data source. Data source is defined by SQL. This will create a data source for us to connect to our database. ABC user detail manager, and then we'll pass our data source. Now just 2 lines, maybe just 3 lines. Adding these lines will help us to read our username and password from our database. There is a catch here. The catch is that adding these things, because Spring Security provides us out of the box features, whereas there are 2 tables which we need to create, and exactly the way we need to create those 2 tables. One is user table, which will store the user information, and another is authority table, which will store the role level information. Now as you can see, we have user information, we have username, and then we have role level. Username and password will be stored in another table. The table name will be users, and the role will be stored in another table, which will be authorities table. And then we need to also comment these code. So now, from coding perspective, our part is done. We have enabled our bean, which will read the information from our data source. Now we are going to create those 2 tables. So I have already prepared the SQL script for us to create the table. The first table is user, which will have our username, password, and one more flag which is called enable, and then another table is authority, which will have our username and authority. So just we will rearrange it and then we will create our table. So we run this query. Okay. Our table is created, and we will create another. Perfect. So now we are going to refresh it, and we will see. Okay, these 2 tables are defined by Spring, and we need to create only. We cannot rename these 2 tables. In our upcoming videos, we will cover how to create our own custom tables. But for now, we are going to use this thing, because this is also mandatory for you to learn so that you understand how things work. Now we have already created these 2 tables. Now we are going to insert the record in these 2 tables. So whatever record we have in our code, for example, dev1 and the password and also the row information. So now just create insert query, insert into public user, and then the value will be username, password, and then enable flag. This is also another flag which value will be 1. Data will cover whatever we can define it here. And the value will be our user will have 1, and then password for dev1 is this one, encrypted password, and then this for plain text password, and then flag will be 1. So we'll insert this record in our database. There is another syntax error at here 1. Okay. Perfect. Record is inserted. Now we will just copy this, and I think we'll better copy it so that we know what we are inserting. We'll change it to dev2, and we will insert it again. Okay, dev1 and dev2 both are inserted. And now we are going to insert our record in our authorities table. Insert into, because we have only provided username and our password, whereas we need username, password, and we also need role information. Role will be stored in authorities table. Insert into public authorities, and the values will be perfect. Now and dev2 is okay. You need to make sure that We are inserting and right. Perfect. As you can see that, okay, let us go. Let's start from complete user. What we need to do is, okay, both our resource are inserted dev1, dev2, and also local one. Start from public this will be run it. So dev1 is developer and dev2 is the. Okay, you can make sure that in our hard-coded value when we are reading from in memory, we have defined dev2 as developer and as well as read. Dev2 has two roles, but in our database we are defining only one value. Okay, we cannot define role as a comma separated in here. So now let us work it out and see how it works, and then we are going to see how we are going to incorporate another role. So now let us rerun our application. Okay, application is starting. Okay, application is started. Now we are going to run our first API. If you haven't watched my previous video, you can go and watch it out. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you. So now you can see it is able to read the information from database and it is able to connect, whereas we have already committed our code. Now we are going to change to dev2. Earlier it was working. If you haven't watched my previous video, then go and watch. Now we change to dev2 and we will run it. Okay, it is forbidden because dev2 don't have access. In hard-coded, dev2 is part of developer role as well, whereas in database, dev2 is not part of developer role. So that's why dev2 cannot access the resources. So only dev1 can access. Okay, now let us quickly do one more thing that is actually working. So let us try to change the password of dev1 and save it in our database and then run the query. Okay, password is updated for dev1 is 102345. Okay, now we'll rerun with old password and see whether it is working. It is connected to database and it is reading. Now we'll change the password to perfect. It is working fine. So now what I'm going to do is, because earlier dev2 don't have access. Whereas we have defined role as a comma separator, developer and lead. But from database we need to have another record inserted for dev2, which will be like dev2 is also what? Dev2 is also developer. Perfect. Now dev2 is also developer. We'll insert it. Record is inserted. We'll see the record is inserted. Okay, dev2 is also part of developer role. Now we'll run this application again. Now we'll fire our API. Perfect, it is working fine. And there is no dev3, so we are getting the same error. So dev3 don't exist. Now, see, we'll use our data source. What is data source? A factory connection of to a physical data source that this data source object represents. An alternative to this is driver manager facility. A data source object present means to getting a connection and often implement data source interface, typically reserve naming service based on Java JNDI API. Okay, it is just to establish a connection for Spring security or user data manager for to connect to a database, and because the code is already written for authorities and user, so by default Spring is able to identify these two tables, and when they can identify, and then based on whatever information present in these two tables, they are able to provide a security to our endpoint. So I hope this is clear. Thank you.